So before I resumed for my master's, right? I realized that my brain had been I call it like a dormant state. I knew that I was going to start academics again, and I've been out of school for about 2, 3 years after my undergrad. So before then, I took advantage of the ISC CC exam. So I studied for it and I wrote the exam. So I think I knew my weak points and I knew that I didn't want to sort of struggle and start reactivating my brain and getting into the like academic mind frame of like studying and actually writing exams and doing stuff. So I prepared ahead. I know there's some advice that's like you need to have an idea of the field of cybersecurity you want to go into before you start. But I think it's just start, to be fair. Start out with something like Cisco's Introduction to Cybersecurity. And then from there, I know there's a path because sometimes you get analysis paralysis, right? Well, it happens to me. Trying to make a full decision before you carry out an action can make you just freeze in the moment and actually not do anything at all. So if you are starting out, be open to anything. Take advantage of opportunities. If you see a free certification when you are starting out, why not? So just sometimes you have to sacrifice your time, your sleeping, watching movies, or going out just to balance and be able to hmm, and be able to walk through everything you have going on at that time. So I'd say, yeah, it was pretty was a bit hard, to be fair, but you just need to pick and choose and set your goal on something and you'll be able to work it out.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Cyber Weekly. Today we are joined with a master's student or a former master's student. She will tell us more about her journey into cybersecurity and generally as a student and person who has actually gone through the lines of actually attaining a master's. That one I don't know how it feels like. I'm completely green about that world. I stopped on an undergraduate. That is it, hopefully. Bachelor's degree is undergraduate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, yes. So, join me and welcome Ebun on the show. Welcome, Ebun.
Thank you very much. It's so nice to be here.
Yes. So, tell us, who is Ebun?
Okay. So I'm Ebun. I'm currently working as a founder associate at Cybersecurity Stack. And I finished my master's in cybersecurity from Coventry University a year ago. Yeah, I finished in November last year. I finished with a distinction and also got awarded the Custos Prize for excellence. I'm a cybersecurity analyst. I've worked as a network engineer as well, and my bachelor's degree was in information and communications engineering from Covenant University. I have a few hobbies outside of cybersecurity. I like to read. I like to paint as well. So yeah, that's where I am.
Okay, that's interesting. So, how did you get into cybersecurity in the beginning?
Hmm. How I got into cybersecurity. So I'd say the background started from my undergraduate degree, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was in information and communications engineering, which, funny enough, I didn't want to, that wasn't what I initially planned to study. I wanted to get into electrical and electronics engineering. I just wanted to be an engineer, but I got that course instead, and it's under the same department. So I was like, why not? So I did a few courses, and in my final year, no, in my penultimate year, actually, 400 level before my final year, we did a few courses on telecommunications, networking, and also VPNs came up. And then I started getting interested in telecoms and ISPs and just how cellular networks worked. So when I was supposed to go for an internship, I focused on ISPs and companies that gave internet connectivity services and also just focused on telecoms as well. So I was really focused on that, and I made sure I got the opportunity to work at an ISP company, Bridgeone Telecoms then. So I worked as a network engineer. So indirectly, that was where my journey in cybersecurity started. Cybersecurity wasn't my aim to get into, but I ended up in there because while I worked as a network engineer, I did a lot of configuration, configuring routers, assigning passwords, logging IP addresses, things that were cybersecurity, but I wasn't even aware that I was doing it in cybersecurity. So when a few occurrences happened while I was at work, I was like, why is this going on? Or we didn't change the default password for the Wi-Fi radios that came from the manufacturers and stuff like that. So I started doing more research, and that was how my interest in cybersecurity started. Then after working there, I was privileged to get into a company as an IT analyst, and then pivoted to a SOC analyst from there. Then after working there for about a year and a half, I started my master's. So I'd say that's my journey in cybersecurity.
So, according to you, do you still miss the SOC, or you actually actively work in the SOC?
Currently?
Currently.
Oh, no. So what I do is it's a mix of actual cybersecurity and like managerial duties. So the company I work at is a startup. We're developing a product to detect and prevent against ransomware attacks. So I'm actually doing integration of that product from the backend into existing security endpoint platforms like Splunk, Sentinel, and Elk, right? So it's not active SOC in actual detection, but like developing a product that SOC analysts and companies would actually be able to use. So it's based on my previous experiences, and also I'm learning new things along the way. So yeah, I feel like no knowledge is ever wasted, right? So if I didn't have my previous experience as a SOC analyst, I wouldn't probably have an idea of what's going on, the impact of ransomware, and how some things just work as well.
If I'm to get you right, basically what you're doing is integrating a ransomware as a service tool, which helps to prevent people from being hacked using ransomware, and integrating it with the SIM solutions which are available, or different tools which they use in the networks. Is that right?
Yeah, to an extent. So the product is still in development, right? So
Okay.
it's based on the resonance protocol and a cryptographic algorithm called the Merkle tree algorithm. So essentially, how we want the final product to work is that we generate hashes for individual files and directories on an endpoint computer, right? So
Okay.
you know how ransomware works. It changes the directory of a folder or the computer or the endpoint that it's attacking, right? So when a change occurs to that file or that directory, the hash is going to change. So based on the previously generated hashes, we form a Merkle tree, right? So it's like a compilation of different hashes to form a tree of hashes, right? So when one component in the tree changes, the entire tree is going to be affected. So that sends an alert to our SaaS platform, and it quarantines the file or folder or the endpoint that's been affected. And then you, as the SOC analyst or the administrator, decide what action is supposed to be carried out, whether the change was authorized or not. So basically, sort of preemptively quarantining ransomware before it's able to carry out its final action.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's definitely a tool which is, yeah, quite nice. Where the fact that it's able to detect the changes on the file and then able to now report. I'm guessing also one of the features you'll be adding is it automatically working as an IDS of sorts, where it is actually more of doing the IDS and also the IPS kind of work, where it does the detection and also prevents some, then waits
Yeah, exactly.
for the analyst to do the final verdict, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So your normal day to day, let me push back to your when you're still in school doing your masters. How was your normal day to day, a day in a life for you? How was it like?
So it was pretty generic, right? Because I had a sort of a schedule, so I just went by that. So depending on my timetable, I think I had classes 3 times a week, and then I was also working part-time and also applying to jobs. So I sort of shuttled in between that, right? Wake up in the mornings, go over my coursework, and then when I started out in my master's, I really wanted to finish with a distinction. Like, it's a big investment, and I relocated to another country for that. So it's like, why would I do all of this and then just finish with a sort of a like, oh, generic degree, right? Not a generic degree, but to me, I felt like I needed to
I
prove a
get your
point that,
point.
okay, exactly, like it was worth it. So I really
Yeah.
went through it. So I wake up, I check through because we had a learning platform, Ola. So I check through previous content from the classes, what was scheduled to do today, if there are any labs, and what topics we're supposed to work on. And then sort of midway through the semester, we get a document for the coursework we're going to work on, right? But you have it, but you don't know what to do with it. So essentially, you have to figure it out, right? So I started working on it. What else? Yeah, I think basically just depending on what course I'm having that day, I read ahead to know what's going to go on because I wanted to be on good terms with my lecturers as well, because it helps at the end of the day, right? Going through the content, knowing what I'm supposed to do ahead, reaching out to my classmates. And I also volunteered as a student education rep. So sometimes I had to schedule meetings between staff and students to sort of get feedback from the students and also relate that to management on how they can make the learning experience for all students better. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, if you look back and currently now, what is your day in your life like compared to when you were studying?
Hmm. I feel like when I was studying, it felt a bit easier because I had a routine, right? I knew that I would do this, check ahead, study. If I had any assignments, do them, prepare for my coursework. I had a set due date, so I knew I had a deadline that I was working towards, and I had a goal I was working towards. I knew that okay, first semester I had this courses. If I needed to go to the library, I'd go to the library. I personally feel like I had more free time when I was a student compared to now because there's just a way education keeps you in a bubble, right? And you know that, okay, finishing is my final goal. I have other things to do by the side, right? But it just sort of gives you a bit of comfort. But now life is just life in, right? And then working at a startup is pretty dynamic. So you never know
Yeah.
what's going to happen. I have meetings by 8 p.m. and it's just like, oh, let's get in for a catch up. And it's fun. I'm not complaining. But it's just like this is the real world, right? You're we're developing a product that actual people are going to use. And it's like you can't afford to make some mistakes. So you can't really I don't really live on a schedule. It's like there's a rough schedule to like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, work on tasks, read stuff, take some courses, watch some videos to get more information. But compared to when I was a student, it's like I missed that time because it was like, oh, I could do this, and I could say, oh, this is what I'm going to do at this particular time, and it was fine.
Mm. Yeah, it's a different ball game when you have left school. It's
Yeah, so different.
yeah. Uh, so according to you, what's one of the most challenging aspects of threat hunting in a high volume environment, and what techniques or tools have you found most effective in overcoming that challenge?
Hmm.
Does your tool actually help
I
with that also? If you look at it,
Yeah,
because
fingers crossed. So I'd say first of all, a high volume environment, you can imagine that there's so much information to deal with, right? Like you're getting logs for a ton of sources, cloud, endpoints, networks, and just everything else. And depending on if you use various platforms, you're also getting logs from all these platforms that you have to sort of cross check and use to cross verify. So I'd say an important skill is root cause analysis, right? Being able to identify what is happening and then being proactive, to be fair, like proactive activity as a SOC analyst, right? Well, when I was getting into cybersecurity, the idea I got of a SOC analyst was just like, sorry, excuse me, you work exclusively on the defense, you don't attack, like that's exclusively for red teaming. But working as a SOC analyst for a while now, it's like you can't really go far if that's the mindset you have, because to be able to catch a thief, you need to be able to think like a thief. So to be able to catch an attacker, you need to be able to think like an attacker and preempt their attacks. So I'd say threat hunting is how to navigate threat hunting in a high environment, right? The MITRE ATT&CK framework is a very important tool for this because it has eliminated about 80% of your tasks. You don't have to manually look around for sources on the internet or from, threat intelligence platforms. The MITRE ATT&CK platform just sort of centralizes it for you, and then you can map it out by threat actors or by their tactics or their techniques and all of that. So if I have a particular endpoint version and I want to stimulate or do trend hunting activities about that, go to the MITRE ATT&CK platform, look for techniques that have been carried out on that particular version, right? And also just sort of streamline it. Then after streamlining it to your particular endpoint version and type, it's then on to you, the SOC analyst, to utilize your skills. How do you think an attacker would try to like exploit vulnerabilities in this? Are there any vulnerabilities you've overlooked? Are there any vulnerabilities where you've sort of classified as low risk, but the endpoint or the end case of that particular vulnerability being exploited is really, really high? So it's like you need to be very proactive, right? You don't just wait around for the logs to come in or for an alert to come in before you start, you know, trying to figure out what's going on or trying to contain the attacker. You need to have a proactive mindset to be able to be like, what would an attacker do in this situation? And then based on your finding, develop rules, develop KQA queries and say stuff like that. My mindset is that at the end of the day, you'll eventually have to become like a security engineer to actually configure stuff like that, because being an analyst alone on the long run, you can't just analyze stuff. You need to start getting into the actual development and integration of stuff.
Sounds like you're chiming into what you do on your day-to-day basis. But according to you, now like the solution you're providing, does it help with that aspect of integrating with MITRE ATT&CK framework to actually help with maybe it's still in the concept phase, which I'm not denying it would be in that phase. Does it help with that also?
Not quite. It's not part of the full scope yet because it's still solely focused on ransomware for now. But there's some automation involved as well. So we trace back into that. But essentially it's pivots, it focuses on like using the file hashes generated to identify changes. So not directly using any like TTPs of attackers quite.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, how do you balance the demands of research, stock coursework with networking and professional development? how did you used to balance? Because definitely
Hmm.
now it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say I have a very perfect example of this, right? So in the final semester of my master's program, when I was doing my dissertation, it was around June. So I was working part-time. I was working on my dissertation. I was applying for jobs and had some interviews, right? And then at the beginning of the month, I came across a post on LinkedIn for a Microsoft SC900 giveaway. But the only catch was that you had to write the exam that same month. And then I already felt overwhelmed, to be fair, because a dissertation is a lot. Like it's a lot of research. And then my topic was simulation based, right? So I had to simulate an attack. It was a lot, to be fair. And then I was trying to avoid my literature review because I had to read so many articles and actually have scientific backing for why I was pursuing the topic I was pursuing. So balancing that, I think balance is a myth, to be fair. I think you just have to pick and choose. So based on levels of importance, I think balance sort of it fluctuates according to the level of importance of things you have going on, to be fair. So at that point, I had to sort of choose how badly do I want the certification. I've been sort of studying it on the side, but I had to pause it when more important things came along. I need to work part-time because I need to pay my rent. Oh my God. And I needed to finish my dissertation, and then I couldn't postpone interviews and all of that. So I had a talk with my supervisor and let him know that, oh, I had this going on, but it won't affect my work, but I might have to reschedule meetings as well. I had to stay up late extra nights. My sleep schedule really suffered in that time, but I set a goal and I really wanted to work towards it, right? And then I didn't go out on weekends. It's just like a temporary sacrifice for a goal you want to achieve, right? I set the exam for the last day of the month in June because I really wanted to put it off for as long as I could. So essentially, I passed the certification exam. It didn't affect my part-time work. I was still able to volunteer as a student education rep as well, but I handed over some tasks to the co-chair I was working with at the time, and then I focused on my dissertation as well a lot. I reached out to people on LinkedIn, and I think it's so important as well, learning how to utilize or reach out to people when you are stuck. So I reached out to people who had previously studied my course at the same university and I graduated and was like, oh, hi, um, what resources did you use when you were in school that helped you with your dissertation? I went to the library. I utilized all of the resources the school had available because I realized that I was handling too much and I was spending too much time trying to figure it out by myself when there were resources available. So I'd say balancing everything it was hard, but you just I knew my strengths and my weaknesses. I knew that, oh, I had tried to figure this out, my dissertation, and I was stuck up to an extent. So I scheduled a meeting with there's a career service, no, not career service. There is a Coursework assistance service. I can't really remember the name of the department, but I reached out to them and they helped me break down some of the requirements and I found where I was stuck. So in that context now, if I had spent all that time trying to figure it out by myself, I would have lost valuable time that I could have put into something else at that time. Sorry. So I'd say balancing everything is just you need to know what is important at that point in time. Create a table, write it down, or just have it at the back of your mind. And then don't try and do it alone, to be fair. There are some things you can't outsource, but things where you can reach out to people and they can, like, one piece of information from someone can solve like half of your problems or troubleshooting issues you are trying to sort of solve. So just sometimes you have to sacrifice your time, your sleeping, watching movies, or going out just to balance and be able to hmm, and be able to walk through everything you have going on at that time. So I'd say, yeah, it was was a bit hard to be fair, but you just need to pick and choose and set your goal on something and you'll be able to work it out.
Yeah. There are definitely times where you have to first, dig in and then get the work done because there's no other way of running away from it. Yeah. But according to you, this conversation about school, what are those things which you think actually we have missed out that is actually key that we didn't talk about?
Hmm. I'd say, first of all, have an open mind and prepare ahead. So before I resumed for my master's, right? I realized that my brain had been I call it like a dormant state. I knew that I was going to start academics again, and I've been out of school for about 2, 3 years after my undergrad. So before then, I took advantage of the ISC CC exam. So I studied for it and I wrote the exam. So I think I knew my weak points and I knew that I didn't want to sort of struggle and start reactivating my brain and getting into the like academic mind frame of like studying and actually writing exams and doing stuff. So I prepared ahead. I already went through the course content. I already knew some of the courses I did not want to do at all, and I knew what I wanted to do. So I say the first tip is preparing ahead. You can never, it's better to be over prepared than to be under prepared, right? Second thing is having an open mind as well. Although you might know what you want while doing the masters or like studying, but you actually never know. I thought I'd be fully into stock, right? But when I did a module on security risk assessment, I audited a company using the NIST and ISO framework. I realized, oh, this is nice. This is something I could develop myself into and actually get more experience in. If I had closed off my mind into that, it's to my detriment as well. And also talking with people, talking with your lecturers. I used to stay back after classes to just have conversations with them as well, because at the end of the day, they are more knowledgeable than me. And I'd say this paid off for me as well because it ended up with my course director asking me to be his supervisee for my project, for my dissertation. And it was a bit validating for me because it was like, oh, the course director wants you to work with him. So that means you're pretty good as well. And then I learned a lot during that process as well. Just picking, the thing is, don't keep yourself in a bubble. That's the most important thing, right? Just having an open mind, always talking to people, always trying to have a conversation outside of academics and also within academics as well. Something else, as I previously mentioned, reach out to people. Reach out to people who have gone before you. People might also reach out to you as well. Work with your classmates. Some of my classmates were my friends. Like we used to work closely together, but even people that were just acquaintances, if I realized that they had difficulties or I had difficulties, it was easy to sort of reach out to them and be like, oh, hi, what are you working on? I'm having these difficulties. Yeah. And utilize the time you have as a student. People generally are nicer to students, and students have a load of opportunities. You can attend some networking events for free. You get some tickets to or some perks to some services online. I know that I was able to access some scientific journal platform for free. So utilize all the resources you have as a student. Most times the university also has resources available in their centers. I went to the career center. I went to the Coursework help center. I volunteered at the library for a bit. Just doing a lot of various things, to be fair, and making the most of the time you have as a student is very important. The master's degree was just for a year, and to be fair, it flew by very fast. So I had a plan. I started applying for jobs the semester I got in, and it was really helpful to me because by the time I graduated, I was still job hunting, but I had a general knowledge or scope of the market, of the job market, right? So I was able to use that knowledge to work more and apply for jobs smartly.
Okay. So, according to you, if someone is getting started, what advice would you give to that person?
In cybersecurity in general,
Yeah, in cybersecurity in general.
try everything, to be fair. I know there's some advice that's like you need to have an idea of the field of cybersecurity you want to go into before you start. But I think it's just start, to be fair. Start out with something like Cisco's Introduction to Cybersecurity. And then from there, I know there's a path because sometimes you get analysis paralysis, right? Well, it happens to me. Trying to make a full decision before you carry out an action can make you just freeze in the moment and actually not do anything at all. So if you are starting out, be open to anything. Take advantage of opportunities. If you see a free certification when you are starting out, why not? It's the I don't think there's a downside to taking advantage of stuff like that. I think the ISC certified in cybersecurity free certification is still ongoing, right? Try it out. Some people fail, some people pass, but it's an experience for you, and then you actually never know until you are in actual situations. So I think be ready to dedicate a lot of time because it's it is a lot. Cybersecurity is a really, really, really big field. And I don't think you ever stop learning. So if you start out with an open mind, it helps you on the long run because you are open to different things. And then even in the long run in your career, you might not start out with you might not end up how you start out, right? You might start out as a SOC analyst, end up in forensics, or end up as a consultant. The opportunities are very, very limitless. So I'd say having an open mind, trying out different things, and looking out for information yourself. I think that's so important because I've noticed that some people like to outsource their information gathering to others. And I think in cybersecurity, it's a bad habit because it doesn't pay off for you because you need to have a proactive mindset, be able to find things, utilize resources. So if you are solely depending on someone to spoon feed you or like let you know what's happening, it's not a good frame of mind to start out in cybersecurity. So have an open mind, take advantage of resources, of courses, or free certifications, and just be very resourceful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. We are drawing towards the end. Actually, we are at the end of the conversation. So, are there any parting shots? Where can people find you if they want to get to know about the startup you're working on, to get to know the technicalities and the difficulties of setting up a startup, all that? Where can they find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Ebunoluwa Idowu. I'm on Twitter, Ebun with 3 U's and one single N. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you can share that. I'll add it in the show notes. Yeah, otherwise,
Sure.
thank you for actually coming on the show. I've definitely picked a lot about doing a master's degree. I'm not sure yet if I want to do it, but at least you have opened the idea of actually thinking of actually getting a master's. Root cause analysis. You talked of root cause analysis and so many areas
Yeah.
of setting up. How does someone help improve themselves, and also, the challenges are everywhere, and the fact that you broke it down to who are the people to be your points of contact when you are having challenges as a student. Definitely there are always those friction areas, and the way you articulated it and also brought it out was really good and quite great. So I would like to thank you for actually coming on the show and sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, just one thing to add as well. Master's degree, it's not enough for cybersecurity. I mean, it's a good starting point as well as certification. So the learning does not stop. You have to get certifications as well. Master's degree helps as well.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's path is different. So you just need to, not everyone has a master's degree. Not everyone has certification. Some people have both. So yeah, just having an open mind. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Yeah.